I'm about to take the most difficult French exam there exists. This is the French C1 exam and this is the C2 exam. And they fall under the DALF, Diplôme Approfondi de Langue Française. The A1 through B2 are the DELF and this one is DALF. So we're talking about the pro leagues here. One of these exams are hard and the other one is designed to question all of your life's choices. The DALF is the highest certification in the French language. It's like the Olympic Games of French learning. And me, I don't test very well in French. I'm more the speak to people kind of guy. My grammar is terrible. La liste des produits alternatifs qui visent à faire aimer autant qu'à faire réviser est longue. Pour éviter d'oublier en 2 mois des compétences si chèrement apprises durant l'année, mais aussi pour ce what the hell does that even mean? So today we're going to take a decision, at least we're going to try to. Do I take the C1 exam and have a reasonable chance of surviving? Or do I take the C2 exam and voluntarily put myself through suffering? For context, the C1 and C2 exams are the highest level in the DALF exam series. The C1 means that you can work, study and argue about politics in France. I already work, study and argue about politics in France. Now C2 is the next level and it means that you can argue more in French. I don't know if I can do that. You can analyze philosophy and probably become the president of France. That's how high that level is. I don't think I can do any of that. Not yet. Now the C1 exam is already pretty intense. It's like a 4-hour test and you have presentations to do, a lot of reading to do. There's writing. I hate writing in French because you can make so many mistakes. But this is proof that you're not just living in France, you're thriving in France. Now I wrote a book about thriving in France, so I may know a thing or two about that. The C2 exam, on the other hand, is for people who love pain. So you're already in a company of only a few people who have ever done this exam. The C2 is roughly the same amount of time, but it includes a lot of philosophical debates, a lot of complex reasoning that you have to do on the spot while you're in the exam. So you better not struggle with grammar or looking for phrases. The C2 is not about speaking in French with your colleagues and friends anymore. It's about thinking in complex, elite French and producing it in real time. I'm not so sure I can do that. Translate it to English. Analyze the socio-political impact of linguistic evolution in the 21st century democracies. I don't even think I can do that in English. Now, if you've looked up learning French online, then you must have definitely heard of Elysse DaVega, who did this in 1 month.
Skills that they test on the DALF C1 exam, my experience on the day of the test. When it comes to preparing for the DALF C1 exam, I would say the most important thing is...
Yo, hold on a second. I got a couple of questions for you. Can I call you real quick?
Yeah, all right, sure.
What's up? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Thanks for hopping on a call.
For sure. For you, always.
So I watched your C1 video a couple of times and I have like 2 or 3 questions for you.
Okay, shoot.
You said you took like a month and change to prepare for that, month and a half, and you crammed most of it in the last part of the of your study. What was the hardest part for you in your C1 exam?
I think the hardest part is just not knowing, because as much as you can prepare for like the format of the exam and, you know, all the different like sections of it, you don't know the topic matter. And I think that's the hardest thing, and it's the hardest thing to combat. You know, what's going to be on the listening exam, what kind of like topics, what is my speaking exam going to be about? You know, I think listening and speaking are the things that feel really like urgent, and like that's where you start to panic because you like need to understand and react very quickly. Whereas with reading and writing, you can, you know.
Okay, so I agree with you. With reading is going to be easy, but writing for me is like an Achilles heel kind of situation.
Really?
Like, were you great with writing to start with, like your spellings and conjugations and whatnot? Like all my accords are always wrong, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. In English, also just in general, I think I've always been really like, I've loved writing, and I've just, not to brag, but it's something I feel like I'm just naturally good at. So, and I did get a perfect score on the DALF writing. So I think that...
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the beginning part of your video. I was like, how did she do it? Writing is where I struggle the most.
I was just as shocked. I felt confident, but I didn't know if I should feel that confident. But yeah, I would say definitely whatever skills that you have that are like greatest in your native language, it's probably also going to transfer over to your, you know, to French.
Now the CEFR says that the B1 is a level where you can handle the language in everyday situations. Now I know my level of French back in the day, and after having passed the B1 exam, I moved to France and I couldn't even speak to the taxi guy or the pharmacist or the bake or anybody really. I couldn't do everyday things in French. Now the fact that I couldn't do that and I still passed the exam is pointing me to be a little more ambitious and take the C2 exam. It took me like a month of preparation to get through this B1 exam. So I have some experience around what it takes to prepare for an exam of this kind. I hadn't done the A1 or A2 exam up until that point, just the B1, and now I'm not counting on doing the B2, either the C1 or the C2. Now you're probably looking at me and wondering that I'm some kind of Superman because I prepared the B1 exam in 1 month and I'm attempting to do the C1 or C2 exam in the next month. Before I took the B1 exam, I had 4 years of passive investment in French. I was watching French movies, listening to French music, memorizing the songs. I was talking to French pen pals and trying to immerse myself as much in the language because I really enjoyed it. Something like my Dutch today. It's super passive, almost non-existent, but I know a bunch of words in Dutch. If I spent a month of doing nothing else but focusing only on the Dutch exam for the B1, I know I can do it because I've already done this in French before. There is a pattern, you just need to memorize that. And I applied the Pareto principle to prepare for the B1 exam. 20% of the effort can bring you 80% of the results. So I was not looking to be the star-studded 99% achiever student. I was just looking to pass this thing, and I had a month. That's what I'm going to do now, either with the C1 or with the C2. Why did you pick C1 and did you ever consider C2? Or is it like infinitely harder? What's the situation with C1 versus C2 for you?
I don't think it's infinitely harder. It's definitely harder, but it's like, I would describe C1 as like you're autonomous in the language. It's like base fluency, but then C2 is really like mastery. And just, I mean, the exam is just a bit more complex. I think the format, don't quote me on this, but I think the format is pretty much the same. But there's just like more complex topics and things like that. And so I think I would have, I don't think I ever seriously considered taking the C2. I think I would have passed it because you only need 50 points out of 100 to pass it. Oh. But I didn't want to barely pass it. I kind of wanted to feel secure. So yeah. I think I would have passed the C2 maybe with like a 60 or something maybe, but the C1 I passed with like a 87.
87, so, I remember. Yeah.
Do you remember?
Wow.
I'm touched.
Yeah. I watched that. I watched your video again last week when I was preparing for this one. Probably gonna ask for your blessings with this because you did like a perfect writing score. I'm taking it. Yeah, I don't need to, but I want to. I want to take. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm still debating within the C1 versus the C2, and I'm gonna spend March preparing for it. But yeah, that's on the cards, man. That's what I'm going to do.
No, you'll definitely. I mean, I've heard you debate. I don't even know. We were at a table at the Polyglot Conference. You were debating like Quebec's struggle for independence with someone. I was like, wow, I don't know how to talk about this in French. So you're gonna run circles around me.
Yeah, I had no idea what, because I don't know about Quebec's history, and this guy, the guy from Canada, he was very passionate to share, and I was just curious. So yeah, I think you were phased out during that dinner. I think you were tired from your day, and we're sitting here talking about uncle politics, and you're like, guys, I'm here too.
Oh my gosh, yeah, maybe that should have been my topic on the exam. Then I would have, had some experience.
You know what? I hope that's the topic in my exam, so I ace it.
It's passion, that's all you need.
We should have taken like a picture or a video back then. I think it's such a comical situation. I think you were just done. Did you give a talk or something that day? You were just tired.
Yeah, no, honestly. It's like a full day. I was also working during that conference. So it was like a full day of working and socializing.
Yeah, thank you so much for the C1, C2 thingy.
Of course. All right.
Now, these tests are super expensive and I can only justify taking one of them. Now, if I take the C2 exam, and I fail it, then I'm gonna have to pay for the C1 exam. But if I take the C1 exam and I get a really good rank, like 80 out of 100 or something like that, I'm gonna wish I took the C2 instead. And that's like the ultimate exam, right? So there's only one way to settle this. I'm gonna have to take the C1 and the C2 exam, the concours blanc, like the mock test, over the next 2 weeks for 4 or 5 hours each. I'm not really looking forward to this. And I hate French grammar. There are so many things to be corrected and my French grammar is terrible. And that looks like what I'm gonna have to do. Definitely hit the bell icon to be notified about my C1 exam when it comes out next week and the C2 exam when it comes out the week after. And I hope to get into this elite club. I'll see you there. Take care and keep learning.